Today we're going to read and annotate The Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. One way is to wham it, which is the what, the weird, the attitude, and the message. Also, you can take each stanza and look at the imagery, the vocabulary, and what the poet is trying to let the reader, trying to tell what the reader about the poem. So today I'm going to read each stanza, The Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. The first thing you notice in the first line of this stanza is free bird leaps. Now, this is a personification because a bird doesn't leap. A bird will fly, a bird will walk, stand, but it doesn't leap. A rabbit will leap, a kangaroo will leap, a frog, but a bird doesn't leap. So in this, you got the image of a bird leaping, so it's flying very strong and high, and it's on the back of the wind. So you have this image of the flying. The next two lines say, and floats downstream till the current ends. When you hear downstream and current, you think of water. So you have this image of this bird flying, and then it says, it dips his wings in the orange sun rays. So this is a vivid image of the sun and his wings. So he's flying so high, his wings are almost touching the sun. And in the very last line it says, and dares to claim the sky. So he's daring to claim the sky. So he's made the sky his own. So this bird is free in this stanza. This is a free bird. In the next stanza, you have but a bird that stalks. So she completely changes this stanza. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage, can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to sing. In this stanza, you have an image of, with the words narrow cage, and this bird that stalks. So you have an image of a caged bird, or a bird in some type of cell or cage. And then the poet says, can seldom see through. The word seldom, what does the word seldom mean? Seldom means very rarely or not often. So it's saying, she's saying that this bird seldom sees through. And then if you look at the next line, his bars of rage. So he's calling the cage bars of rage. And remember, with rage, you have different stages of being upset or mad, and then angry, and then rage is at the very top. So he's describing his cage as bars of rage. Then it says, his wings are clipped, and his feet are tied. So this is giving you an imagery of his life. He's not able to fly. They've clipped his wings, and his feet are tied, which gives you an image of his lack of freedom. So he opens his throat to sing. So this is completely opposite, because it's saying the only thing he does have is he opens his throat to sing. He does have this one thing. So the mood in this stanza is negative, it's sad, students have described it as depressing, but it is a negative stanza describing this caged bird. Moving on to the next stanza, line 15. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but long for still, and his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. So again, we're talking about a caged bird, and it's describing the singing, but in the next line, what is he singing about? It says, fearful trill. And I didn't know what trill meant, so I looked it up, and it's vibration. So it's describing him being fearful, so he's scared. And you ask yourself, what is this bird scared of? And in the next line, it tells you of the unknown. So he might be scared of his future. He might be scared of what might happen to him. And then all of a sudden, this stanza here changes completely with one word, but. The poet puts but, and it completely changes. Longed for still. So he does have that small hope, and that hope is that his tune is heard on a distant hill. So he's saying he does have his singing, and he's hoping that he has faith that it will be heard. He is going to be heard. And then next, for the caged bird sings of freedom. All right, next stanza. A free bird thinks of another breeze. The trade winds soft through the sighing trees. And the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn. And he names the sky his own. So this one is going to be about a free bird. So we're coming back to the free bird. And another breeze, you have an image of flying. And then it says here, trade winds soft through sighing trees. So I get the image of him flying through the trees. He has freedom. And then all of a sudden, he has his meal. It says, and the fat worms waiting. Not only worms, but fat worms, okay? Waiting on the dawn bright lawn. So I always have an image, I have the image of a lawn in the morning at dawn when the grass is wet and the worms are coming up, and here he is flying down and getting his meal. Not only a meal, but a fat meal. And he names the sky his own. He is in control. He names it. So I've had students for this stanza describe the free bird actually like in paradise, and it's completely opposite of the caged bird. All right, next stanza. A caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare screams. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. So the poet is coming back to the caged bird, and again, I would circle or underline a grave of dreams, because when you have dreams, there's something positive, but you can't have a grave. The grave is dead. A grave is stagnant. It doesn't move. It's something for the afterlife. But he's saying that his dreams are that way. They're dead, no future. And then he goes to say, and the shadow shouts. So his shadow of this bird is actually, caged bird is shouting a nightmare scream. So it's a nightmare for him. This is internal. And then it comes back to his wings are clipped and tied. He has no freedom. So all he does is one thing. He opens his throat to sing. Now the last stanza is a repetition. You're going to notice some repetition. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but long for still. And his time is heard, his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. And again, this goes back to the caged bird. And this is negative. You have, again, him not knowing of the future. This is a repetition. So you can wham this poem, and I would also ask yourself what the theme is. And most students will say freedom, for either freedom for the caged bird wanting freedom, or the free bird having freedom, or you could say also oppression or being oppressed for that. And this could have another meaning all together. It doesn't necessarily mean cage bird. It can mean something to do with something in the news or something in going on in someone's past. It could also mirror that.